All right, first clip of Urban Decay, or first story of Urban Decay. There's something called Shotspotter. Did I fuck it up?
Of course you did.
What's it called?
It's called Shotspotter, and it is a program that hears gunshots, and it's used in a lot of cities. It's a single company who does this, and it's used in Baltimore, Chicago, LA, a lot of places, New Orleans.
And basically, a gunshot goes off, and then the camera hears that, and then starts recording so they can figure out who did the shooting.
Exactly.
And we have a update from Chicago. The headline says, Chicago scraps gunshot detection system accused of racial bias.
And this was something that Brandon Johnson, the relatively fresh mayor of Chicago, campaigned on. He campaigned on getting rid of it. You want to play this video really quick?
The campaign promise fulfilled. Mayor Brandon Johnson is ending the city's use of the controversial gunfire surveillance system known as Shotspotter. The city's contract with the company behind Shotspotter expires on Friday, and the police will stop using the technology September 22nd, about a month after the Democratic National Convention.
So they stopped it because it targets minorities, even though it targets the sound of gunfire.
It's literally impossible to tell who fired the gun until someone gets there. But it's racially biased.
Does it only react to black people's guns?
Yeah, it goes, pow, this was a black guy. This was a black guy. Like, I just don't get it. But again, it's one of those things where if, like, America has a inner city gun violence problem, right?
Yeah.
But and then they go, oh, man, we got to do certain things. We have to develop an arsenal of tools to fix this. But if that disproportionately affects black people, go back to step one, you know?
And let it be bad and no one gets anything fixed and the city's fucked up.
And it's like, of course it's black people. That's what it is. That's reality. This is reality versus fake world again.
And it's doing all the shootings.
The gunshot goes off, bang, bang. And then you know who's usually at the other end of it too? That's a black guy too.
Yeah.
It's usually another black guy.
It's a closed loop.
And so the mayor, the Chicago mayor is mad because the black shooter, I guess, might be wrongfully roughhoused or something, but he's also ignoring the usually black victim.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to me. And we have an example. Should I read this?
Please do.
This guy, John Arnold, on Twitter said, I visited a real-time crime center in Chicago last month. It's where analysts oversee the technology available to the police. At 1 p.m. on a Thursday, the ShotSpotter alarm went off, indicating gunfire, with a poll camera 100 feet from the shooting. The analysts were able to have a visual of the location within 30 seconds. Police were alerted immediately after ShotSpotter confirmation and arrived in 2 minutes. An ambulance arrived after 4 minutes. At no point in the entire sequence did any citizen call 911. This neighborhood, the most violent in Chicago, is so used to gun violence that most shootings are not reported. In this incident, the victim had minor injuries, but in other situations, the timely response of first responders saves lives.
So they got to get rid of that.
Can't have that because nobody calls the police and they want a black man to bleed out in the gutter of Chicago, I guess.
So they can't stop the shootings because the people doing the shootings are black, so it's better just to let the shootings keep happening where all the victims are black.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be a criminal in Chicago.
It feels good. Yeah. I might go for that next shooting if I'm a young black man and I say, hey, Trey disrespected me. Should I go let that thing talk? In my mental model, I'm starting to calculate, and it's like, well, ShotSpotter's gone. And yeah, I kind of can let that thing talk a little louder this time.
Yep, ShotSpotter's gone. Police can't chase you if you run. They stopped keeping gang databases. They enacted the Safety Act, which releases criminals with no bail.
No cash bail anymore.
And the police budget and general numbers are down too.
Yeah.
So
early retirements up.
Yeah, good time to be a criminal in Chicago. Well, let's look at some of the new gun stats. I remember the old saying was 13% of the population commits 50% of the violent crimes.
Yeah.
That actually is worse. 60% now.
Yeah.
It went up. And then CNN just released this, firearm homicide death rates by race. And it goes through. So for 100,000 people, how many people are killed by firearm homicides? And for example, for the first few, whites, 2.77, 1.52, 1.05, 2.09. And then for the same states, black people, 59.42, 49.14, 47.94. So it's like 50 times worse.
Yeah, and most killing in, like, the general rule of thumb is most killing is done within the same race. So CNN here is looking at the firearm homicide death rate by race, and they're like, but they're killing black people. And it's like, who is on the other end of the gun, please?
Yeah, who shot him?
And it's usually black people, obviously. But, CNN has to go with their angle. That's why they're CNN.
Yep, exactly. And then you have Al Sharpton and Ben Crump doing their side of things where they're promoting, obviously, false narratives. Look what they say about the criminal justice system in America.
We can get rid of all the crime in America overnight, just like that. And people ask how, Attorney Crump? Change the definition of crime. Of course. If you get to define what conduct is going to be made criminal, you can predict who the criminal is going to be.
It sounds like we're criminal, though.
Yeah.
Our existence is
the culture.
criminal.
But
That's-
they made the laws. They make the law to criminalize our culture,
To fit us.
black culture. I mean, and so when I think of Eric Garner, I always think of stuff like that. Lucy cigarettes.
I did nothing. We sitting here the whole time, running our business. What are you talking about? I watched it. You watched it do what? Who did I sell cigarette to? Don't touch me. Not touch me.
All right. So Al Sharpton and Ben Crump say that they criminalize the things black people do just so they can arrest black people. So I guess what they're saying is the black community is very much into the Second Amendment. Yeah. 2A enthusiasts to the point where they're exercising their Second Amendment rights on each other every day.
All the time, constantly. Block.
You notice how
Baltimore.
You notice how the go-to clip for what they're criminalizing black people is Eric Garner, who is selling loose cigarettes?
Yeah.
It's like, you guys don't have a better example than that? Well, the criminalizing of the way we live and the things we like to do, and your number one example is selling loose cigarettes? It's like if you were saying, oh, they don't let us play jazz music. They come shut down the bar and they lock us up for playing jazz music. I go, okay.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Whoa, that's fucked up. You're telling me now for the first time. I just heard about that.
Yeah, but it's the,
I'd agree with you, Al Sharpton.
Yeah, but the inability to sell loose cigarettes, that's what we need to have changed.
Yeah. And it's like, let's ignore just these little small infractions. Go murder, rape, kidnapping, very violent assaults. It's like, you can't possibly get out of those, right?
They just want to lock us up for being us.
Yeah, for being ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And also, obviously, what Reverend Al and Ben Crump are doing is providing cover fire for the bad guys. They're coming out and saying, oh, black people, we're getting locked up for nothing. All they want to do is put us behind bars. And that makes people think like, oh, they must be locking up a bunch of black people.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're probably locking up less black people than ever, and crime is worse than ever. But if you hear black representatives saying, oh, we're getting locked up like crazy, you think like, oh, the police must be locking people up.
Yeah. And I think we've showed videos on this podcast about judges being like, we need to talk about equity and inclusion, and we need to talk about what would happen and our biases. So, like, people are taking that into consideration when they're talking about sentencing. And people like Al Sharpton and Crump and some of these, like, old school race hustlers who have been in the game for a very long time, they're kind of stuck in this, like, 1996 vision of the world. They haven't updated their mental model that, like, literal murderers and rapists get released, like, early in a sentence anymore. They think it's still the 94 crime bill, and they just keep hitting the same points.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last clip of Urban, the San Francisco traffic laws. So this is a graph. San Francisco monthly penalty notices for driving infractions, meaning like the number of driving infractions that they're issuing. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the graph, it looks like it went to 0, and Democrats would spin that and go, wow, traffic infractions are down big time. The streets are way safer. But it's only because they stopped enforcing the law and aren't giving traffic violations out to people anymore.
Yeah.
But that's how they do it with crime stats, with illegal immigration. They change the definition or they don't enforce the law and go, wow, illegal immigration's down.
There hasn't been an illegal arrested here in 12 months. And it's like, yeah, it's not because they're not there and not doing crimes.
And you look around and they're sleeping in the airport and
Yeah.
like taking over your towns in a different way than you've ever seen in 50 years.
Beating up a Macy's guy.
And they look you in the face and they go, oh, crime's down, looting's down. It's like, well, you're just not arresting anyone for looting anymore.
Yeah.
So same with this traffic thing. And also another note, which I think is the real reason behind this, when you pull people over for traffic violations, that's usually how you catch people with the pre-existing warrants.
Of course.
And people who are wanted for something else. And then you bring them in because you got them on a speeding ticket, but then, hey, this guy's wanted for aggravated assault, and you bring him in.
Yeah, serial killer getting caught because their registration expired. You know?
Exactly. So them getting rid of the traffic violations, That's them saying, we don't want to catch any criminals by accident.
Yeah, it's going like this.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see it.
All right, did you like that clip and want to watch the full episode it came from? In the description, you can find that link. Check out the full show. Do you guys already watch the full show and want to support even more? FleckUsTalks.com is the way to do that. Sign up for Bonusland. We drop a Bonusland episode after every public episode. Over 4 hours of exclusive content each month. So if you love the clips and you love the show and you believe in our message and want to support us even more, FleckUsTalks.com is the website and the link is in the description.